back to Demigod Debut. I'm Mal, longtime Percy Jackson fan and Lightning Thief musical appreciator, here with a slightly different episode than usual. This week, I'm here with Scott Folan, who plays Grover in the Lightning Thief musical in London. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm such a big fan of the musical, and I really loved your take on Grover, so I'm really excited to get into it.
Great. I'm really excited too.
Typically, we are a podcast about my best friend Julie reading the Percy Jackson books for the first time and making her demigod debut, as you could say.
Right.
But occasionally I get to do fun little side quests like this because, you know, she's not quite crazy enough yet to just drop everything and fly to London.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get her there, I have faith. But
yeah, for sure.
All that to say, you're stuck with just me today. Also, just to provide a little context, because the first question we ask all of our guests is, what was your demigod debut? Or, like, how were you introduced to the world of Percy Jackson?
My demigod debut, I would have just been probably 9, and I read the books, and I was a huge fan, and I've loved them ever since. I've always loved them. I've always been a huge fan, and I've just loved the books, and I picked them up during lockdown again, actually, just randomly, while I was shooting a film called Serrano, and I took my copy of the second one up a mountain. And it was a volcano, an active volcano that we were shooting on, and it exploded. So we had to just drop our stuff and go. And I left my book still up there.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. So I haven't read this. I moved on to the third one because I was near the end, and I thought, well, I've read this. I know what it is. But I haven't finished the second one since I was 11 because my copy is up a mountain.
Oh my gosh! Now there's just a copy of The Sea of Monsters on a volcano.
Yeah. It's up there.
That's crazy. Did you read like any of the other series or just kind of the original 5?
Do you know, I honestly can't remember. I'd say I read, is it Heroes of Olympus?
Yeah, Heroes of Olympus is the second one.
Okay, so I've read towards that, and I'd have maybe dropped off during that because that's what I've got on my childhood. Doesn't mean I might have carried on using library books, but that's my evidence. That's what I've got in evidence.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, you know, those books don't have Grover anyway, so not really relevant for your career trajectory.
Who needs them?
And then, silly question, have you given any thought as to who your godly parent would be?
Oh, no. I mean, the answer's no, but I'll put thought to it now. I really don't know. We had a conversation on day 1 about what our superpower was.
Oh.
If we were all demigods, what's our superpower? And mine was music, because I use music to convey and control emotion. So whenever I'm sad, I write sad music to mean I don't cry, or mean I do cry, but in a positive way. And so you might have to tell me who that makes my parent.
Possibly Apollo. Apollo's the music one, yeah.
There you go. Apollo's my dad.
Congratulations. I'm glad we could figure that out.
And my mum's name's Linda. So there you go. Linda and Apollo.
Amazing. And so, were you kind of familiar with the musical before, you know, getting to do it?
Yes, weirdly. So my girlfriend, as well as being an incredibly successful actress, lectures at head of courses at a university here for musical theatre. So she organises all this stuff, and one of the things she organised was the UK debut, actually, of Percy Jackson the musical when the license was first released.
Oh, awesome.
But their big rule was they weren't allowed to advertise it as the UK debut because obviously they had this in the pipeline. We didn't know that. And so I watched it because it was my girlfriend. She produced it and I was like, amazing, I'll go and see it. They were young musical theatre students and they did amazing and they did really well. And obviously there was some strange casting. I don't mean casting choices, but strange sort of splitting up of roles to make sure everybody gets there. But it's a drama school. So some of it made sense and some of it didn't, but that was my first like, oh gosh, this music's really good. And obviously some of the actors were absolutely amazing and some were like doing the course because they wanted to go into other things, but I do remember sitting there thinking, god, this music is cracking.
Oh yeah.
And I listened to it for almost the whole year before I then got my audition in and thought, right, time to read the books.
Amazing. And so have you always been like a big fan of Grover, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think I definitely would have seen a lot of myself in him reading the books. I suppose we all would have seen ourselves as Percy Jackson because he's the protagonist that you follow. Mm-hmm. I think I understood Grover a lot as almost a third wheel. I sort of understood. I had a lot of friends who would like get together and I'd just be the one who wasn't.
Oh yeah.
And I quite enjoyed that, reading that and witnessing that as a character. Yeah, definitely. I would have felt a lot like him. But then I feel a lot like all of the characters. And that's the beauty of the writing, isn't it? That you see a little bit of yourself in everyone
Yeah.
and a little bit of everyone in yourself. That's how I read the books.
Yeah, I think, that's one of the reasons why I'm an adult who still, loves these books, I think, because
Yeah,
the characters are so real and so just
they're
relatable.
incredible.
So I want to talk a little bit about your take on Grover because it felt very different from versions that I've seen previously in the musical. I feel like you found a really great balance between kind of the comic relief side, but then also the very like anxious and emotional side of Grover. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, where does your take on Grover kind of come from?
Myself, I think I read the script and thought, well, this is just me. And it was the same thing I felt when I read Be More Chill for the first time. I'm not going to have to do much here. I'm not going to have to access much here. The script is brilliant. It's a fully formed and fledged character. And, you know, Joe Trace has done an amazing job with the writing. So I'm just going to trust the work and trust myself. So I didn't do a whole lot of prep actually. I mean, obviously I prepped in the sense that I read the book and I learned my lines, but when I got to day one of rehearsals and we read the script, I hadn't done loads of work going through it. I wanted to react to other people's choices and see where it took me, and it took me to a anxious, loving sidekick who was so content not being the center of attention and so content not being looked at. And I asked myself, why is he so content not being looked at? And that's because he doesn't think he deserves to be looked at, and he doesn't think he's worthy of anyone's attention. So he gives. If everyone gives 50% attention and receives 50% attention, that he just wanted to give 100% attention, and so he gave all his attention to Percy Jackson. He wanted to give that to Annabeth, and he struggles to, because he feels that anytime he looks at her, she's can't really look at him, and which is why when it comes to True in a Hill, it feels so easy to access that, because Annabeth's asleep and he wouldn't say any of this in front of her, and he couldn't make himself, and so that's why I always struggled with that. Ask Annabeth, she knows, and then he starts singing a song, and I was like, why does he say that? He says that because he couldn't say it in front of Annabeth, but he looks over, remembers she's asleep, and says, well, Percy needs to know now. And in that moment is the only moment he lets someone look at him, and he hasn't let anyone look at him the whole time. I had a conversation with the director about the crying in the campfire song, which is that the thing that makes True in a Hill so emotional is that he doesn't let himself cry because he doesn't deserve to feel like a victim because it was his fault.
Oh,
So why can he then cry in Campfire Song? Well, he cries in Campfire Song because it's actually he's getting too much attention, and he wants everybody to roll their eyes and stop looking at him. So it's sort of a performance, which is why I get over crying very quickly.
I'm gonna like shed a tear right now. Poor baby Grover.
Yeah, well, this is the work, isn't it? I love it. I love him. I love him. I think this is the joy. It's so easy to play him because I love him, and I think he deserves that love and attention. And so in the moments that I let him have it, I get very emotional. So the only moment I let myself get emotional in True in a Hill is when Percy looks at him right at the end, because it's a very strange song, True in a Hill, and the way it's been directed, that it goes from speak to song speak, and there's like action happening behind me that isn't really happening in that moment. It's a flashback, and it's like, where do you look? And so it's a lot of sort of surrealism, and then there's one moment of realism when he turns back to Percy and is just talking to him. And yes, the tree is growing in the background and it's a beautiful tableau, but actually that's the only real moment that I allow it to be him on a bus with his best friend while he tells him, and he looks at him, and because he's now Thalia, right?
Yeah.
He is Thalia in that moment. So when he turns back and says, Thalia saved us, she paid for her sacrifice with her life, he can't look at Percy because he's like, well, you won't have to go through that. I'm not going to let that happen again. Yeah, I just love all the moments that form him as a character. I could speak for an hour about all the different moments in the
Please
show
do.
that I love, but Tree in a Hill is obviously my favorite song to sing because I've earned it, right?
Yeah.
I think I've done the work throughout the show to earn him feeling uncomfortable enough to have a weird speak song where, like, in musical theatre, the only reason to sing is because there's no other choice. But this rule is broken because he sings and then he speaks and then he sings and then he speaks. So how do you justify that? Well, you justify it by him having no other choice but to sing and then not wanting to be looked at anymore. So singing is actually the moments in which he allows himself to feel, and the talking is when he's just saying facts. So when he's telling him the facts about Chiron sent me to escort 3 half-bloods to camp, he's speaking. And when he's saying there on the hill up on Half-Blood Hill, a cold wind blew, dark and chill, that's what he felt in that moment rather than actually what happened. Because he then goes on to sing mostly about what he could have done better. I also love, which is really subtle and I don't think anyone sees, but I do it for myself to get to Tree on a Hill, which is in Campfire Song. I'm loving that moment because everyone's being themselves. He's looking around at all the people he spends all his day building up, and they're like shouting about how wonderful their life is and how crap their parent is, but actually it doesn't matter, and he's just adoring it. And then Annabeth gets up there and she's singing and then she says, so I left Virginia and I ran away, and my face drops because
Ooh.
I remember why she's here and why she's got trauma and it's my fault. And then I feel the same about Luke. And then the other one I've added in really recently is when Percy says, Luke, are you coming too? I get very excited because I think, oh my God, we're going to do it again, but we've got Percy this time.
Oh no, it's our chance for redemption.
Yeah, and then he says, no, I can't. And I'm like, no, please come, please.
Ah.
But yeah, there's so many moments. I have to stop myself because otherwise I'll just keep talking.
I love that. I wish I could see the show like 37 more times just to catch all the little things.
There are so many moments. Loads of people do loads of amazing things.
Everyone is doing so many little great things, and like the ones that I caught, I was like, oh, this is amazing, and just...
Yeah, sometimes it's a show you have to see more than once. But also that sometimes things happen just once. And, you sit there and you think, God, those 300 people that were there tonight will be the only ones to see that, which I adore sometimes. Like things Morgan does when he's on for Percy.
Oh, yeah, we saw Morgan. Morgan was great.
He's incredible. But of course, just for context, Morgan is the Percy understudy or Percy cover. And he goes on when Max for any reason, needs to show off. And he happened to be on when you were in. But of course, the nature of being an understudy or a cover, you're not on every night. And so every choice you make might be the only time you do it. It might be that you're on for 5 days in a row. And it might be that that's the only one you go on for the next 6 months. And to make bold choices is so amazing and inspiring. Because when you make a bold choice in theatre and it doesn't work, you go, never mind, I'll do it again tomorrow night. When you make a bold choice and you might not get to do that again, it's so gorgeous to watch. And I'm really inspired when I'm on with Morgan. Obviously, I'm so inspired when I'm on with Max. But in particular, just in this example, because he comes up with things in the moment, and I'm like, what if that doesn't work? And you can just see in his eyes, he's like, doesn't matter, it's real, and he's in the moment. I love him. I really love performing with this whole cast. Everyone is so talented and so in the moment. Yeah, it's a brilliant production. It's really worth seeing.
Yeah, I would second that. It was, I mean, we had a great time seeing it. Would you say that like your Grover changes depending on like who your Percy is that you're working with, or do you think it's kind of more subtle changes?
It's subtle. It's definitely subtle. As a character, he's the same. Well, there's only been 2 Percys we've had. I'm sure it would be a dire situation if we had someone who hadn't rehearsed, because those are the only 2 people who know it in our cast. I don't know what the situation would be if someone else was on.
Oh
no. Let's touch wood. But when Max is on, I feel that Grover and Percy are more tactile. And like, I don't know how this affects us in any way. It might affect us sort of visually. I think we still feel the same things. But Max and I are a lot more sort of hand-holdy and cowering together, whereas Morgan and I are more eyes. Like, it's all in the eyes. We look at each other a lot more. And maybe that came from like the first time Morgan was on, he was thrown on with sort of an hour to rehearse. And so every eye contact was like, what do I do now? I do remember that show about 3 months ago. And it was incredible. And he, tore the house down. But
well, I mean, that's a fitting feeling for Percy, though. What do I do now?
yeah, just thrown into it. I think that's why it worked so well. But he was very much like, please just like push me around the stage if I'm not in where I need to be. And so that eye contact maybe came from that. But it's developed into a beautiful, we can change what we like because we're constantly looking at each other. We're constantly keeping that eye contact. And we go with whatever we go with, and go with whatever the other person does, and it's beautiful. But yeah, I think definitely there's an aspect of a lot more tactile with Max and a lot more connected sort of in our brains rather than by our bodies with Morgan, which is really interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
I don't think one is better or worse than the other. It's just different and it feels different. And as I say to my mum all the time, all these things, these micro things that I discuss as an actor, probably in the perspective of a stage, that the further you get away, the smaller it is, or the bigger it has to be to get to you. Actually, it probably just looks the same from like row H. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it all probably looks the same. If I stood there and sang it without any acting, it might just look the same. It's a strange thing as an actor to recognize sometimes how subtle and small things actually might make a difference to you personally as a acting actor, but actually that they don't really make much difference in the grand scheme of things on a big stage, you know.
I mean, I think they make a difference. I think the feeling is there. I mean, we were sitting pretty far back. I did squint a little bit trying to read what your shirt says, because you've got the shirt that just says like "Grr."
Grr. It does just say grr.
And so once I figured out what it said, I was like, "Oh, Grr for Grover," because like
grr. Yeah. Morgan's favorite thing is to. There's two moments. One when he's on for Percy, one when he's not. He always goes grr when he looks at me. One when he's on for Percy, we do it at the end, but just before we hug, and one. And when he's not on for Percy during DOA, while he's doing the dance, he locks eye contact with me, and he's such a good dancer, he's able to during the dance go and carry on dancing, which is him reading my shirt and going grr. He's amazing. Me just talking about Morgan this entire podcast.
that's so fun. Speaking of costumes, the Grover pants.
Yes.
I was just, delightfully toasty in that theater, but all I could think about was like, oh my gosh, is he hot in those pants?
I'm a hot boy. Yeah. Obviously, they're a state secret. We can't reveal what they look like or describe them in any way. But they do have ice packs sewn into them.
Oh.
Because they're hot. And I was quite diva-ish on the first couple of shows where I was like, guys, I'm not doing this show unless there is some sort of ventilation in these pants. Because they are hot. It was like a swimming pool down there the first time. I don't want to be too, it was, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. Because it's a physical show. There's a lot of dancing, a lot of moving, a lot of jumping. And I get to the interval and I'm a hot boy.
Yes, I was very excited for you when you took them off for the quest, like to be kind of back in human form.
Yeah. Just I've covered them up with magic mist jeans. That's what we've figured out. Because people kept asking, where did your legs go in the second half? And I was like, what? They're still there. I am a satyr. I am a half goat. They're just covered by jeans.
Yeah, it's the mist.
Otherwise, the mortals will be like, why is there a half goat walking around? They'll lock me up and do weird tests on me.
For sure. So, kind of in preparing for this role, I know you said you didn't do a whole lot of like outside stuff to prepare for the role because you kind of wanted it to be authentic. But I'm wondering, like, did you watch the like show that recently came out on Disney Plus?
Oh yeah. When I say I did no prep, I mean to say that I didn't, before I got to rehearsals, do any sort of character work. I did all of the Percy Jackson prep. I read all the books I could. Well, do you know what? No, I read The Lightning Thief, because if I carried on reading, I'd have started putting that stuff in, and that hasn't happened yet in our musical.
Right.
So I read The Lightning Thief. I watched the series. I watched the film. All of which are different from the book, of course, in many ways, but so is the musical. Yeah. So I thought I'll steal my favourite bits. And I have. There are many moments I've stolen, and there are many moments I will not steal, because I either disagree or just thought, no, that's not going to fit, is it? But my Grover's also very different to those Grovers. Like, if you've watched the film and then come and see mine, very different character.
Oh yeah, completely different Grovers.
Yeah, he's nowhere near as cool. I mean, he's cool and uncool in that film, but yeah, he's very different. He's sort of much more cowardly, I think I play him. But I think it comes from a deep place of trauma. I don't think it's cowardly for cowardice sake. Mm-hmm. It's cowardly. It's fear of losing the ones you love because he's already lost a loved one. I think you're most fearful of the thing you've already lost and fearful of it happening again. Yeah, he's a sad boy. But yeah, I definitely watched the series. Definitely read my book, and poor child Scott, his childhood copy of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief got ripped and ragged and it's written all over because I'm making notes on the tube, and then I'd like fold pages over to go back to. We in the opening we use these like notebooks, like jotters, school jotters,
Uh-huh.
and that in rehearsals my copy of The Lightning Thief was that, so it was just getting like shoved in a bag, and yeah, I mean it's a mess now, but it's got memories in it.
Well, I believe that that's what a copy of The Lightning Thief should look like. Mine is held
Exactly.
together with scotch tape and a prayer. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's how you know a book is good and has been loved.
yeah. It's been well loved. That book has been well loved.
So, do you have like a favorite part of the show to do every night?
Tree in a Hill.
I had a feeling that would be your answer.
It's everything leads up to Tree in a Hill. I think I said the same with I did a musical called Be More Chill. Everything led
Mm-hmm.
up to Lose a Geek Whatever, which was the end of Act One. The Act One, I just didn't leave the stage. It was one big arc leading up to Lose a Geek Whatever, and how it made me feel, and the big pinnacle of the show where he decides to choose coolness over love, over his best friend. And Tree in a Hill is the same. I think it all leads up to that decision to be able to tell that story to what is essentially Thalia 2.0. And I love doing it every night. I love how different it is every night. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I just cry because it's so sad. And the look in whoever is playing Percy's eyes is so full of pity. If like it depends on how they're looking at me, you know. Sometimes it's full of pity, sometimes it's confusion, and so the story comes out more. You know, if Max is looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" It's more about the story points. It's more about this happened and this happened and this happened, and then only at the end does Grover get a little bit emotional, but he stops himself because actually he hasn't been emotional that long. But sometimes, like for instance, Morgan looked at me on like Tuesday with real pity because he understood very quickly, um, and
Yeah.
I just cried because it was really sad, and poor
Wow.
Grover was really sad. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do a great job with Tree on a Hill.
thank you.
I feel like your take on Grover is so fresh, and I mean, you obviously put a lot of thought into it and like really understand, who Grover is and like his past, and so.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think all the reading in the world and the watching and preparation for it is all great, but actually this is the Lightning Thief, the Percy Jackson musical, which isn't Percy Jackson, the Lightning Thief, the book. It is slightly different. We have had to cut things,
Mm-hmm.
and to say that everything that happened in Grover's past in the book happened to him in the show, in the world of which we're building here, I think would be to bring too much into it and to confuse the story. And so sometimes I think I know that happened in the book, but I'm going to decide, and I'm going to decide tonight that didn't happen because it's going to add a layer of something else to my acting that is going to bring away from what the story we're trying to tell is, which is like the Lotus Hotel is we don't even step inside. You know what I mean? It's things like that. We just walk
Yeah.
past it because we're like no. Whereas they spend 3 days there in the book or whatever it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the whole idea of the summer solstice is not there.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So one of the things, so that for me is very minor, but every time a god comes on stage, I've decided to act like I've never met, because I think that makes more sense to a viewing audience that haven't read the books. And because we haven't discussed it as a trio. I mean, maybe it's worth discussing as a trio now. We're about 3 months into this run. But I think we've all decided to be surprised and shocked. And because Ares comes on and goes, have that effect, Ares, god of war. So he introduces himself. And so if we're all going, oh my God, it's Ares, the god of war, before he says it, it's going to be slightly confusing. So in the world of the book, they go up for the solstices all the time and they've met the gods. We don't leave Camp Half-Blood in this because we say we don't leave Camp Half-Blood. Also, why is there only one half goat running around the stage and everyone else is a half god, half human? Nobody knows.
Great question.
There are questions that don't need to be answered, you know? And there are questions that do and questions that don't. That one doesn't need to be answered. Just accept it, guys.
Because they just want you to have to suffer in the hot goat pants.
I am the only half goat. And I'm the only sufferer, the great sufferer, Scott Folan. Suspend your disbelief, guys. Look at them goat legs and smile and move on with your life.
Have you had like a favorite part of kind of the process of getting the show happening in London?
I liked when Rob came over. Rob Rakiki came and joined us for like the last week of tech and then the first week of the run. And it was just joyous him being there. We butted heads. He wanted Tree on a Hill like 2 times as fast. And he, of course, he was right. He wrote it, but of course, I wanted it as slow as possible because it's a sad song. But of course, he was right. We sped it up. My favorite moment was coming over to him and going, "Hey, Rob," and he goes, "Hey, how are you?" I was like, "Can I talk to you about something?" He goes, "Is it Tree on a Hill?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You want it slower?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "No." And I went, "Okay," and walked away. And that was the discussion and debate we had. But yeah, he's obviously, it's his show, and he wrote the thing and he knows how it works. And Tree on a Hill was dragging the second half because it was too slow, and actually you got too long to think about it. Whereas if we drive through it, because it's got a lot of story points, if we drive through it and just play the heart of it, it hits a lot harder. And then we get onto DOA and everyone's really emotionally confused because it's really quite funny, but you've just been sort of stabbed in the emotional heart and you're like, what's happening?
Yes, and then we go to the Underworld nightclub and we're dancing.
What on earth is happening right now? Yeah, someone multi-rolling again. We have got I've quite enjoyed having 12 people instead of 6 like the Broadway one. Well, how was it different for you watching a double the size cast?
I enjoyed like the big numbers, there being more people kind of on the stage, like the camp feeling a little fuller. I also thought
Yeah.
the breakdown of roles was really interesting. Like I enjoyed having like Gabe and Mr. D played by the same actor
Yeah.
instead of that being like, Grover playing Mr. D,
Yep.
and then I think like Paisley was killing it as all these
Killing
roles.
it.
And
Yeah.
every time she was there, I was like, oh my gosh, she's something else, and she's so good at this one too.
She's the secret lead of the show. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Are you happy to not have to play Mr. D, or do you kind of like wish you could take a stab at it?
Hey, I wish I could take a stab at everybody. That's the sort of actor I am. There are shows like this, and it would kill me every day. But in a perfect world, I'd change part every single night, and give everyone a good go.
Ooh.
But that's called rep theatre, and I don't want to do that. It's a skill that I don't have in my roster. But yeah, I would love to give it a go. But also, I think I said this to some people and they disagreed, but I think I understand it on a deep level. I wouldn't have been cast as this part if I also had to play Mr. D. I think they would have got somebody in a middle-aged range. They were able, not middle-aged, but in the middle age range between the two ages, so that they could feasibly play both. Whereas I think I'm on the younger side of that age range between Mr. D and Grover, so that I can just play Grover and I can play it arguably, hopefully, more accurately and more to what they would have written the part as, instead of, not quite the right look or vibe, but so that I can do both. Obviously, George Salazar is so talented; he can do bloody anything.
Yeah.
But actually, Joe, who plays Mr. D, is the cover for Grover, so he can do both. I would love to say I could do both. I'm not Mr. D's cover for a reason. There is a cover in our ensemble who covers Mr. D if Joe covers me. Yeah, I don't know. I just think I think it would feel. I'll tell you why I also think it's different is because in the 6-person cast it was more like sort of kids putting on a musical, and so it was okay that ages weren't quite right. Whereas in ours it's a lot more realism in terms of age brackets. We've got people in their 30s and 40s playing adults, and people in their 20s playing kids. It's obviously 10 years older than everyone should be, but it gives a difference enough that you go, oh, they're the kids and they're the adults. Whereas in the kids version of it, everyone was all the same age, and it was like kids put on a thing, they put on a wig, and suddenly they're an adult. I think that's why it's different for ours. That's why I'm just an actor. I don't know. I just do as I'm told.
So if you had to sing like someone else's song, like whose do you think that you could just absolutely kill? Like, think you would crush on My Grand Plan, or like a...
I think I would crush on My Grand Plan. That's exactly what I was thinking. I think I'd have to change the key. I love Good Kid. Good Kid is... I can't sing it. I haven't quite got the notes. But if Rob agreed to put it down a tone, I could sing it. We put Try down a tone, I tell you. Because George Salazar, I'll tell you what he does, and I know he does this because he told me he does this. When he's in a workshop or something, he goes, oh, I think we can put that up. I think we can put that up. I think we can put that up. Because he knows he's the only person who can sing it and he can't be fired. The thing is, George, when it transfers to the West End and you're not doing it, there's no one else who can sing it, buddy. So I went, I think we could put that down. I think we could put that down. I think we could put that down. So we did. I still can't sing it some nights. I just wail my way through it. But that's live theatre. We've got to do it 8 times a week.
Yeah.
I could sing what George had it at once in a recording studio, but not 8 times a week. I wouldn't do 8 shows. I wouldn't get to the last one.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes in theatre you've just got to be like, yes, you can do this, great, in the audition, but can you do this 8 times a week? And that's the real question.
Well, I was really excited to see Try in this version of the show. Love the song. I never really thought that it fit with the musical, but I am so happy to eat my words because it felt perfect. I really enjoyed like Act 2 opening with that. So
Yeah.
What's kind of your thoughts on Try and being like the first Grover to get to do it live?
Yeah. I think it's really important. I think if I'm right in saying Act 2 just used to start on the bus, they were being attacked on the bus.
Yeah.
So I think it launches, it slowly gets you into, we're going on a killer quest and then suddenly we're on the quest. I think there's an aspect of us going on the quest, which is, I think, really important to an audience who don't know the story. I think we thought about that quite a lot. We thought about the non-fan audience, because we're not going to fill 300 seats every night with fans of Percy Jackson. Some of them are just going to be musical theatre fans. Some of them are tourists. Like some of them don't know anything about this, saw the poster and thought, great, I'll step in. We have to tell the story to them as well as everybody else. And for me, as someone on the stage, I feel like I'm putting across that aspect of this quest is not a joke. It's not like we're going on a killer quest. Like, yeah, it is like, oh god, well, I mean, we might die. We might get blown up. We might get eaten. We might turn into stone. We might lose our lives while we do this. And I've already lost a friend, and I don't want to lose another one. And I'm risking that by going out and leaving Camp Half-Blood, which is where we're safe. And I think that's the important aspect. It's not a joke anymore. This is real. And Try is about that. Try is like, we might fail and die, but it doesn't mean that I won't try. Hey, there you go.
We got to bring the mood down a little bit so the audience knows that we're in danger.
So we're in danger, man. And then we get attacked. Because the thing is also that every attack and every like bit of danger is played as a joke, is played as a gag sometimes. Everything's sort of googly eyes, and because it's a musical for kids. But to set up the idea that these things are real and that there is consequences to these actions, I think is important then for us to be allowed in people's minds to make jokes of these bad guys and villains, so that even though we're making a joke of them, there is the real aspect of, and that's what my grand plan does a bit, and then my grand plan sets up a real emotional core. Drive makes a joke out of everything that happens on our journey, and then True Hill reminds you that even though we're making jokes about this, actually people die at 12 years old because of these things we're making jokes about. So don't forget that when we go to the underworld. Like, we really are scared of this, and I think it's ordered very well in the second half.
Yeah, very much like a roller coaster of emotions.
Emotion and for us as physically, yeah.
So, my last Lightning Thief question for you. What are you kind of hoping that audiences will walk away from the show with?
I hope audiences will walk away feeling inspired and hopeful. Because if we can do it, we're a bunch of kids with no training or knowledge. I hope they feel... Yeah, I think inspired is the word. Inspired and hopeful for the future. Because... Percy talks about it at the end. I don't want to spoil the ending, but it's we can't just sit at home and wait for our parents to fix things. We have to do it ourselves out there in the real world. That's where the monsters are. We can't just stay safe where we are in our lives that we've set up for ourselves. Some of which will be kids with their parents, but some of which it's like you are your own parent. You're staying in your you found a job you like, and a place you like, or a relationship that you like but you don't love, and actually it feels safe. But sometimes it's about stepping out of your comfort zone and going, no, if I want to be truly happy, if I want to be truly fulfilled in my life, then I've got to go out there and face the monsters. Because I might lose and I might fail, but it doesn't matter, because I'll just get back up again. Because you're not actually facing Medusa in your life. You're not actually going to turn to stone. Your consequences are, you might be embarrassed because you might ask someone out and they say no. You might be ashamed. You might be sad. But actually, those things don't matter. Those things are feelings that you have complete control over. And the monsters are often inside us all along. Thank you.
Wow, that was great.
Thank you. I'm a real poet.
You also recently had your producing debut with Coppola, Spanish Cabaret, which we also saw at your recommendation. Loved it, by the way. It
Gorgeous,
was
right?
so incredible. And we were so curious, how did you get involved in producing the show?
Yeah, I mean, I just put myself out there. I faced the monster. He could have said, no, what are you talking about? And I would have been like, yeah, I mean, you're right. I saw the show in 2022 and loved it, obviously, because it's incredible. And I said, well, what are you doing with it? It was in a small theatre to 35 people. I said, what are you doing with it? Because this is amazing. And you should do this more. And he was like, oh, I just produced it myself, put it on when I liked. And I said, well, I've never done it before, but I've always wanted to get into producing. Could I give it my best shot and see where it goes? And I got it to the same place Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief is, the other palace. We're sold out every single night except for tomorrow, which there are a few tickets left for. Obviously, this is going to go out way after. But hopefully tomorrow will sell out because it's very close. And we have had 4 stars and 5 stars exclusively. Some 4.5, which I didn't know was a thing.
I didn't either.
I don't know why you wouldn't just give us 5, but hey, 4.5's great. But we've got plenty of 5-star reviews. 10 5-star reviews to whack all over the poster. It's going to be amazing, and I'm so proud of it. And who knows where it goes next? Well, I know where it goes next.
Oh, do you?
But no one knows where it goes next except me, which is a super weird feeling. Normally I'm like, hopefully we extend, or hopefully we, as an actor, hopefully we transfer. I make that choice. Whether it's commercially viable or not. It's super weird, but hey.
Oh, that's crazy.
You learn on the job.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to know that potentially there's something coming. I mean, it's a great show.
We're definitely going to keep going.
Amazing.
Yeah, that's the news exclusive to you. There you go. It's going to go somewhere.
So exciting. Yeah, great show. If you have a chance to see it, definitely should check it out. I was like, wow, I learned so much, and also I was entertained. This is...
Yeah. And I mean, I love the emotional heart of the piece. Is his grandma at 101 or something. He calls her the oldest diva.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just, I don't know. He has an amazing way of storytelling about his life, and his grandma's life and the regime in Spain. He's a gorgeous storyteller, and I fell in love with him and his story, and I put myself out there, faced the monsters, and nothing went wrong. Yeah,
it's amazing when that happens.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you're working on that you want to plug right now, or?
I always release music. It's for me, it's a passion thing. I don't make any money from it, and I try not to make any money from it. I hate making money from it. I do it. I write songs about my mental health and my love life, because if just one person listens to one of my songs and it changes how they feel about themselves, then that's worth more than money can be. And that's everything to me. So if you are feeling a bit sad, or you're feeling like nobody likes you, I've been feeling that this week. It's really weird. It's just suddenly crept in. I've been a little bit ill, which often happens to me. My mental health goes down, and I've suddenly been sitting in the dressing room thinking, I don't think anyone here likes me. I don't think anyone wants to hang out with me. And I know that's not true, but sometimes I'll lean into that and I'll write a song about it. And I wrote a song called I'm Not All Right during lockdown, which was about how I felt after being bullied on a show by a famous actress, and how it left me feeling like I didn't want to act anymore. I didn't want to do this. I should just go and get myself a really nice 9 to 5, find myself a girlfriend who I had at the time I'd been with about 6 months, try and make this work and just build a really nice family life. But then I was going to let the monsters win, and that was what that song was about. And I wrote a whole album about distancing myself from friends because I didn't think I was worthy of their love or attention, which is one of the things I put into Grover. Because he distances himself from Annabeth because he doesn't think he's worthy of her love anymore. And so, yeah, I wrote. So if you ever feel like that, you're not alone. You're not the only one. It's not true. And go and listen to my music, and it might make you feel like you're not the only person who feels like that. Because I feel like that every day, and I tell it to F off. Because those feelings aren't true, and they're not real, and you've made them up yourself. And if you've made them up, you can make them go away.
Oh, amazing. I feel like I'm going to have to check that out because, yeah, those are such real feelings.
It's worth it. I like them. I like my music. It's folky. It's folky and country-esque and poppy, a bit poppy, but it's mostly folk.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, where can people find your music? Where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so in everything, it's at Scott_Folan. It was what I could get on every platform. And then it's on Spotify and Apple Music, wherever you get your music, Amazon Music. I don't know where people get music now. It's on YouTube if you want to get it for free. I mean, I don't, like Spotify, and they pay me nothing. I might make 60 quid a year, and I'll just put that into some recording fees. You know what I mean? So just go and stream it wherever it's free, and listen to it. It's my latest album is called Other Days, but if you just type in Scott Folan music, that'll come up, and you'll just have a listen. Been releasing for the last 5-6 years, so there's enough to put some headphones on, close your eyes in a darkened room, and have a cry. It's the best feeling in the world.
The best, yes.
Right.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with your evening show tonight.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna go. Someone's brought me a Nando's. Very excited about it. Have you ever had a Nando's?
I sure have. Yes, when we were there last weekend.
It's the best. I'm gonna eat some chicken.
As always, you can find us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Threads at DemigodDebutPod. Links to our social media, as well as Scott's and also his music, can be found in the episode description. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review wherever you're listening. I've got one more Lightning Thief musical episode for you next week before we finally start The Last Olympiad 2 weeks from now. See you later. Bye!